Tremendous cute, tremendous cute, tremendous cute.
Who's your favorite pitmaster's favorite pitmaster?
Hey, what's going on, Tremendous Q fans? It's your boy here, Wade Morris, owner of Pitmaster Tremendous Q, and I'm back with an update video on the Mistress. This pretty lady you see behind me. So, M&R reached out and they said that they had updated based on a couple of the lessons learned that I put out on my first couple of videos. They said they made a couple of modifications to how they're now putting these pits out, and they wanted to basically upgrade, give my pretty lady behind me a facelift. So what they did was they moved the gas assist from the bottom to the side of the firebox. Went ahead and added a pump to my sink, and then lastly we added a spare tire. Let's go.
Alright, so we're going to start off with the gas assist. Long story short, the gas assist was originally on the bottom of the firebox. You can see we now have it on the back side wall of the firebox. So it got moved from the bottom, this little hole right here, and then they picked it up, moved it to the side. They got rid of the piping underneath the firebox and essentially just attached the tubing to the pipe that's now protruding out of the back wall. So the biggest change is just with cleanup. With respect to performance, there was absolutely no difference. The cleanup was the biggest issue that I had, and so that's the main reason that I wanted that moved. Now here's sort of a side-by-side shot of the original versus the upgrade. So originally it was coming out of the bottom with metal piping. Now the gas assist just protrudes out of the back side wall and it goes straight into the piping into the back. Here's the performance of the upgrade with it coming out of the back. Absolutely no degradation of performance. The log's still light inside of 10 to 15 minutes, so I'm definitely happy with the upgrade. Moving on to the spare tire. Not so much an upgrade as it is just an addition, because I didn't have one to begin with, and I've went on a couple of road trips. I think the longest drive that I've taken with the pit was just 3 hours, and that's in between Jacksonville and Tampa. But not having a spare tire, I was really nervous. So you can see they attached this thing. They mounted it to the cooker end or the cooker side of the pit. Just use a regular, believe this was a 3/4 inch lug nut. And then I just used a ratchet that I already had at the house, and so I keep the lug nut and the ratchet inside of the pit. That way, if I ever have any issues on the road, no matter where I'm at, I can just use the ratchet, lug nut, and go ahead and take the spare tire off and get it switched out. For a jack, I use a jack that came with the truck. So from the back, here's how the spare tire was mounted to the side of the pit. You can see nothing was tack welded. That's not good work. They welded the entire thing to the side of the pit, and then they used the lug nuts to go ahead and attach the wheel. Moving on to the sink, and probably my favorite upgrades. Before we get to the power, I actually want to show you guys. I added PVC piping. Basically what I did was I cut a piece of PVC pipe and then I put tape over one end, and this acts as a cover for the air intake to the water tanks. This piece will protect anything from getting inside of my water tanks. So now my tanks are completely covered when they're sitting inside the garage. All right. This is the pump that was added to the pit, to the Mistress. As you can see, the water, the piping underneath the sink got a little bit more complicated, but basically this was so I can make sure I can control how much hot and how much cold water I have going to this thing whenever it's running. So both hot and cold water will run into the pump, which is attached to the pit, so that no matter what kind of bumps you hit, this thing doesn't get knocked around. The wiring for this thing, again, because the pit's usually exposed to the elements, they did a great job covering the wiring with basically like some electrical covering, and then they ran it underneath and they kept it inside the curves or inside the bends of the support frame of the pit to protect it from rocks and the elements outside, so on and so forth. They made sure they secured it all the way to the side, and then it attached the wiring and the on-off switch to the side of the sink itself. So let's show you how it runs. So the water pressure is controlled with the valves connected to the sink, but the mixture of hot and cold water is controlled with these valves connected to the water tank. How high I turn these valves controls how much water comes from each hot or cold tank. And so that's how I control how hot my water is or how cold water is coming out. As for capacity and drainage, I still use a 5-gallon bucket, and after 3 times both my water tanks will be empty. So here's a quick side-by-side showing you the old versus the new. That's what the drainage used to look like under the gravity fed in the top right corner, and this is what we got once we put the sink under power. Once we're done with the water, we just go to the side of the sink and hit the off switch so that we're not draining the 12-volt battery, which is what we're going to check out next. So the power is a 12-volt battery. It's connected to the base of the frontmost storage container on the pit, and the battery is protected by a little shell casing, and then there's some soft cushioning underneath it to protect it from the shock of the bumpy road, and then this casing protects the battery and the electrical components from the elements, kind of like the wiring on the actual pump itself. So M&R did a really good job protecting the electrical components. All right, to keep the battery charged, since it's not connected to an alternator, we just use a trickle charger when it's in the garage, and then underneath you can see the 4 screws that keep it connected to the base. And those are the upgrades. If you stick around after the outro segment, I'll have a little slideshow.
Hey, appreciate you guys checking out this update video of this pretty lady behind me, the Mistress, my side chick, the only side chick that makes you money. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So real quick wrap up, we had a spare tire, we added the pump to the sink, and we moved that gas assist from the bottom of the firebox to the side. All 3 things, with the exception of the spare tire, really cut back on time, and the spare tire is just a huge relief. You know, you don't want to be driving down the highway, have a flat, and not be stuck, you know what I'm saying, with nothing to do. So, as always, you guys have really been reaching out, asking me about my pet. I had a call tonight, as a matter of fact, of a guy asking me about my pet. He called me yesterday, said he's going to give me a call today. We talked for a little bit. So, again, please continue to reach out. I absolutely love talking to you guys. I'm by no means a pro in this barbecue thing, but I'm willing to share almost everything I know. I ain't giving up my ribs. I ain't giving up my sausage. A couple of you guys have asked. So with that, hey, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, shut up and smoke, and we'll see you guys on the next video here on Tremendous Q's Cooking Channel, all right? Later.